It's Monday afternoon at Emerson Global User Exchange. We're sitting down with Peter Zornio, Chief Strategic Officer for Emerson Process Management. And Peter, one of the things that we heard this morning was that I/O counts in plants, as plants get bigger and bigger, process plants, that the idea of the olden days, 15 to 20,000 I/O points would have been considered a large facility. Now, 50,000 are becoming more common, and are we that far away from 100,000 I/O points in a plant? And what's it going to take to make that kind of thing happen?
Sure. Well, Peter, first of all, as you said, I think 45, 50,000 points is something we see now. And there's a number of factors that are adding up to make it to where I think 100,000 points isn't just possible, but I'd say probably inevitable with the track we're on right now. That we'll get to that. First is just the sheer scope and size of these plants themselves. People are building larger and larger facilities. The idea of building as we used to refer to it, the routine 100,000 barrel per day refinery is no longer the case. Those type facilities and types of facilities like those are getting ever larger and turning into vast complexes of stuff. So they tend to have much greater scope on their own. But the other thing that's probably adding even more to that is the actual number of measurement points themselves going up and the amount of information coming from the devices that we have. Not because there's so much individual wire pairs going out to all these devices anymore, but that more and more of them are intelligent devices. They're on some flavor of bus, whether it's a more analog-oriented bus, kind of like a foundation field bus, or a discrete-oriented bus, such as ControlNet or Profibus. So that where you had a single wire pair before bringing back one piece of information, typically now it's a bus, and it's bringing back lots of pieces of data. So when we do a project, we actually talk about hard and soft I/O, where the soft I/O is data coming back either through a network or some other kind of serial interface, as I described. And the hard I/O is the more traditional kind of point-to-point wiring that you may be thinking of. The other thing that's really going to make the I/O count take off is the greatly reduced cost of getting I/O and getting data in that wireless brings. So one of the big promises for wireless all along has been to dramatically reduce by even 80% the installation costs of getting an actual signal from the field. We're seeing that's true, and the next frontier we expect to see as people go into these big grassroots plants is taking full advantage of wireless to bring in lots of measurements that they wouldn't have brought in before. Because every measurement is basically a financial decision between the value that you can associate with that measurement and the cost of installing it. And if we can dramatically lower the cost part of that equation, we're going to see a lot more of those measurements making it. So for safety monitoring, for equipment health monitoring, for temperature monitoring, and a lot of different temperatures that people may have wanted to always get but couldn't cost justify, wireless is going to pump the count up. So you've got larger plants, you've got devices that are putting out a lot more measurement points themselves in a bus manner, and then you've got wireless to pick up, bringing in all kinds of other measurements that people didn't think of before. All those are going to add up to where we're going to see a 100,000 point plant probably in 5 years from now.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
You're welcome.